周日長談，我哋翻嚟繼續同大家一齊傾下參議員嘅功能。我哋今日請到嘅特別來賓呢，係我哋而家參議院裏邊唯一一位亞洲女性嘅參議員，佢嘅名就係 Yonah Martin。Welcome back.
Thank
Now, we ended our first section by talking about the committees. I learned about the committees and I found it very, very informative and very knowledgeable discussion because they was televised. Why is the Red Chamber, I mean the whole Senate meetings, not televised, and it's kind of secrecy, and that gives the more mysterious and misunderstanding to your job? Why is not televised?
Well, I don't know the answer as to why not. When I began, it wasn't televised. I know that the 1 hour, the QP, the question period, is televised, and the House is televised. And in that hour, I've been told that at times it's very theatrical because it is televised. And even though the committee meetings are televised in the Senate, we don't see the theatrics per se. Perhaps that's just the nature of the institution and how it has functioned. There is an interesting debate about whether or not we should televise the chamber proceedings. There is an audio recording that is available, and our staff, everybody in the Senate, can follow the audio of the chamber, but there is no television. But
we are way beyond that era.
Well,
we are not radio
that is it's not about secrecy. It is a debate, but anytime you introduce change, as you know, BC, there is process. There's process of discussing the pros and cons, and the process of making sure that we're considering all of the unintended consequences. So that debate is happening, I am happy to tell you.
But I do remember from the news that it is going, there is a budget to install the cameras.
Right, well there's several considerations like that, budgetary matters, but also because center block, where the chamber is, it's going to go under renovations in the next little while, and then we're moving the entire chamber elsewhere, so there are those additional costs if we were to install now and not wait until we're back in the chamber. But the other thing too, like I said, it is process, but there should be some understanding of our Senate proceedings which are different from the House, and for people to understand why, for example, in our QP, the only person that answers on the government side is the leader of the government. He represents the government, and I'm the deputy leader of the government, but I don't respond to any of the questions during QP. It is just him. So if people tune in and they don't understand, why is he the only one talking? Do none of the other conservative senators have anything to say? That's not the case, but those kinds of educational things would have to happen as well.
Exactly, and I think the more transparent, the more education people understand the process and the procedures, it will be much better. So but let's move on to a more touchy question, because you did say that you are the deputy leader of the government in the Senate Hall. So you were appointed by the Prime Minister, by the party, and you represented the party. But one of the basic functions of being a senator is to offer the sober second thoughts, which is even with a bill that was passed and promoted, proposed by the ruling party, which is the Conservative. Let's make it clear, the simple, like the Conservative Party have passed a bill. Do you have the opportunity to look into the bill, and if you find that there's really some flaw in it, do you feel comfortable raising that red flag and say, no, this is wrong?
Well, what people have to understand, first of all, I was appointed by the Prime Minister, by the Governor General on the advisement of the Prime Minister, not the party. The party is separate from the government of the day, which is the Prime Minister of the majority, or of the ruling party, so to speak. So right now, it's, our Prime Minister did appoint me. I think what everybody should know first and foremost is that, yes, we are members of a party. So that partisan hat, so to speak, we don't ever take that off, in that I will always be conservative and somebody will always be liberal. So we are partisan individuals, and we're part of a political system that encourages debate. Even in the Senate chamber and the House, we sit opposing one another, so that's part of our system. But in terms of providing, second thought, as well as looking at a piece of legislation thoroughly, I mean, by the time it gets to a vote, the process requires us to look at it at all these stages, and before it goes to committee, it is carefully examined. Before it's even introduced, it's carefully looked at. Communication would happen at all levels, and so if anybody has whatever issues and there is a flaw, we absolutely would be discussing that. So by the time it gets to a vote in the chamber, if it were televised and people see the Conservative caucus stand and vote all together en masse and the Liberal caucus does the same, well, that happens because by the time it gets there, we have already had all of our internal discussions, a lot of debate that happens all the time. We meet as a caucus every week. We communicate online more than, many times a week, and we are constantly discussing as to what is going to, on a piece of legislation, what our concerns are, what is working, what's not. So that happens behind the scenes, and it's part of the process.
Okay, now because
this happens on screen during the committees too.
Yeah, but as a political entity, in the House of Commons, it's really a very partisan things, and that it's always opposed to each other. But as the senator, as someone who's mandate to provide a sober second thought, how often do you communicate with the different parties, and discuss it as a Senate as a whole, and not even debating, but find out what they think?
Well, many senators have relationships with members of the opposite. I meet with my deputy leader of the opposition every day before we go into the chamber. So there is a constant flow of communication in that sense. When it comes to the bills, I mean, government legislation is one thing. That's the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. So government legislation does take priority, and that's just our parliamentary system. They are elected. The people have given them the mandate. And so as the deputy leader, I know that when I prioritize, the government legislation would take that priority. In terms of communicating to the other side regarding just some of our concerns, that does happen, as I said, on an ongoing basis. And the communication with the opposition members, that happens too, just because we are colleagues, we sit at the committee together. What people say to each other, in all honesty, I can't tell you. But I can tell you that my deputy leader opposite, Senator Joan Fraser, she and I have a very good working relationship. We say what we can within our, purview of deputy leaders, but there are things that she wouldn't say to me and vice versa, but that's because it is politics. But we communicate, and we are very professional with one another, and we ensure that we're not out to surprise the other. Yes. There's a very clear communication process in place. I can assure the Canadians of that.
I like that.
And in the best interest of Canadians.
And I think that should happen more often. So one thing for clear is that although at the end of the day, when they vote, we can see that it's all unified on a party basis. Yeah, but there was a lot of communications behind the scene, and I would like to see that happen more often.
It does happen more often.
So going back to the partisan issue, Justin Trudeau, as the leader of the Liberal Party, has made a very significant or substantial move. Some media used the word fire, but it's almost like alienate the Senate, Liberal Senate, from the Liberal caucus. So the purpose of which is to make sure that it's not partisan. Do you agree with, and do you think that will help in making more decision that is a sober second thought?
It's hard to answer that question without sounding partisan. So I think what I will simply say is, before and after that happened, I don't see a whole lot of difference. So I don't know how it functions within their caucus and I guess two caucus now, but from the position of the deputy leader's office, when I meet with the deputy leader, we say of the opposition, they are the Liberals. They have called themselves something slightly different. It could be a matter of semantics. I won't make judgment on that because, out of respect for my colleagues, I'll just say we deal with them in the same way we did before. Some of the determining factors may have changed potentially, but from my perspective, sitting opposite them, I don't see a lot of difference. I haven't seen a lot of difference. There have been on occasion, but for the most part, they have voted pretty consistently.
But
together.
I think that is also a matter of evolution, not a revolutionary.
Well, the National Caucus is very important to me. I'm very proud to be part of that National Caucus. Like I said, the communication happens on a weekly basis. I meet with my BC caucus, so the MPs and senators from BC. We have our caucus meeting, and then we have our National Caucus meeting with MPs and senators from all across Canada within our own party. So that weekly opportunity to interface is very important to me.
Well, I have a whole list of other questions, but I think we need another hour to talk about your work. But really, it is important that the senators should come and talk more about their work. It has been misunderstood, or it has been veiled with more mysterious. But thank you very much, Senator Martin, to come here and explain this to our audience. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. 周日長談，我哋今日咧請到嘅係我哋唯一一位亞裔嘅女性嘅參議員Yonah Martin 嚟同我哋傾下佢對呢份工作，我哋非常多謝佢。呢個參議員嘅工作，目前因為聯邦政府同埋聯邦法院已經講咗係唔喐得嘅，所以我哋唔好暫時唔使去諗話點樣去改革，但係點樣喺目前嘅狀況之下多了解。然之後，我哋咁樣之後，先至提出得更有建設性嘅議題。周日長談今日到此為止，多謝大家。